Yeah, back in the day. Right.
What kind of phone is that?
That's a S7, Galaxy S7 Edge.
You don't have a Gear VR yet?
I do, and they actually had the.
I was seeing that you could use it for Gear
Yeah,
VR as well.
Yeah, the problem is the USB input because one of them's tied up with the gear, the other one's the port, which is fine. But I tried plugging it in, running their service on that, and it wasn't really working.
I just got an S7
Oh, nice.
and suffered.
Oh, it crashed. Sweet.
Suffered through going from the Vive to that. Same project running.
Yeah, that's a fun time.
There's a couple good articles. They're like super detailed about optimization.
Yeah.
Here we are.
They have a lot of built-in framework for that too. It's pretty nice.
Almost didn't recognize you, man. You're camouflaged. It's like
That's beer back there, but no camera. Bottle opener.
you're not the first to critique,
You best this.
or the last.
It's all one big tease.
Oh wait, no. You got one? We have to have a community beer opener next time.
I could pop with the lighter, but I lost my lighter.
On the phone.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
That's another thing I wasn't ready for. These are like supercharging.
That's awesome, right?
It's awesome until you have a normal charger. It just sits there.
Yeah, actually, like loses battery. I got mine too. Why not?
Can you email me the slides?
Sure. You didn't.
No, I don't have the link on here, but
Mm.
that'd be helpful.
Okay. Yeah. Let me. As soon as I can get online.
You got this.
Is it just Capital Factory or is it Capital Factory Guest?
Guest.
Yes,
Oh, Guest.
Yeah.
No wonder. What do these things cost?
I don't remember. Whenever they were new, they were pretty expensive.
They're pretty penny.
It's a good look on weeks.
Thanks. They have no idea. Like, Spotify.
Blow their minds.
And you got to give them an email.
What's that? Oh. Oh, what do you
They're like, we just want to put you on a mail.
Oh, you didn't have to. You're already good.
Oh, really? Now it's on.
Pretty sure.
Let's see here.
Don't fall for the hype.
They just want the email.
Give us your email.
You don't have to give it to us, but you should. We'll mail you stuff.
Yeah, Spotify announced their Spotify gaming initiative.
Mhm. Smart.
Where people could use
Chris P. Mahoney.
songs in game. That's me.
Yeah, I launched Spotify as well. For
What does
the
P stand for?
Cuban site.
Was that?
What's P stand for?
Patrick.
Patrick.
Power. Stands for power.
Powers.
Um,
Good Percy. Percy.
How to get Percy. So I thought Spotify was gonna like allow API access to game. Cool stuff. No, it's literally just game music playlists.
It makes sense. I mean, they can really monitor that.
It was weird to be like Spotify gaming. It's like
Yeah, it's the last thing you would expect, kind of.
just okay, cool, more playlists.
Absolutely. I mean, that's all the playlists you need. I mean, if you can tie into one major library like that, that's all you need, really.
That was just goofy. It was like there's now.
I mean, in the long run, you want one of those deals, like hands down, anyone you can get, SoundCloud, Spotify.
So the fact that they might be having costs. Sounds great. I mean, it's really interesting
I tried their new web app.
How you doing, man?
Sorry not
to
Yeah, because you're streaming music with the screen off. I mean,
check this out. It's
there's more content on YouTube than anything. I mean, like, even with music, especially with music.
like
Like,
it'd be so useful to me. Like,
3D printed?
printed stuff.
For both the controller and
camera.
For
Yeah.
your third controller.
Yeah, it's like I have
the audio?
I went by Virtuix today and demoed the latest stuff, play tested the latest stuff. It was cool. A lot of fun. Broke a sweat.
I'm not quite sure I understand what kind of.
Like a normal professional camera has like a flash mount on the top, and you just put that screw it down in, and then it holds a Vive controller, the third Vive controller, and then for mixed reality, it pops whenever it recognizes the third controller, it pops a versus like how we've done it in the past, just like fucking taping the third controller to the camera. You know? Right on.
What games you play?
The arena, Omni Arena, the core defense.
Looking good?
Felt really good.
Parts of that dead wood.
It was a lot of fun. Popularity by individuals. Good. I don't know. I think we just wish I could kick this down like this thing. This thing's weird.
Yeah, just put this forward. We can get that out of the way.
Oh. Hold that up and I'll move the base. First no problems.
Let's just do it right here.
Sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, you feel like you tall right now. Lift it up and I'll. Yes. That's heavy. Just like right here.
Alright.
And then we'll move this thing out of here. We don't need no stage.
Stages.
Plenty high as it is.
Oh, badass. Do they have that on a Thingiverse by chance?
I don't know.
Do you know? Maybe I'll look it up. What's it called again?
What, that?
Yeah. Probably don't, but I mean.
It's a Vive controller camera mount.
Okay, let's see. I got a Thingiverse app.
All right, we'll go ahead and kick it off here. Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. Thanks for ferrying the traffic and getting down here. I'm sure we'll probably have some more trickling in because the traffic was pretty horrible. Plus, we're combating attendance with Fantastic Arcade tonight. So that's probably what happened to most people is they didn't realize it until the last minute that they wanted to go and stand in a much thicker crowd. So I'm Finn Staber, and I am a programmer designer at Portalarium and also the co-founder of the Wave VR, working on a virtual reality DJ experience. You can create music and perform multiplayer. It's pretty sweet. And my co-organizer here, Chris Mahoney, from Unity Technologies, as well as the founder of Extractron Games, making awesome, cool VR and pretty much anything else heavy lifting and tech that you need. That's a good guy to talk to. Show of hands, who here was at last month's event? Cool, right on. Well, thanks for coming. Who here's an active VR developer? Right on. And the rest of you looking to become active VR developers. So I think you're on the right track, showing up to these things and meeting people and trying to get things done. This is really the way to do things. Show of hands, anybody use Unity? Unity game engine? Right on. Unreal development? Cool, got a couple in there. CryEngine? Max Play? Too soon. Sorry. If you're unfamiliar with Max Play, that's a engine that the development team just went under here in Austin, unfortunately, just this last week. But the good thing is that it's a bunch of awesome engineers back in the marketplace that are looking to do cool things and work really hard, because it was a really cool thing. It was actually Magic Leap recommended them as the engine to learn before it came out, which is funny that it then bit the dust, because I was really intrigued on hearing more about how the engine tools are going to work for Magic Leap. So it's a bummer, but that's the way things go. Last month we covered the Vive input utility and the Steam VR toolkit, which are plugins for Unity that you can bring in, and it kind of gives you a shortcut to setting up a bunch of input controls, like picking an object up, shooting a bow and arrow, teleporting to another location, pulling a lever and it rotates amongst a fulcrum, picking up a gun and using the trigger to shoot that gun, a bunch of different dynamic interactions that you can kind of just start with and have a bunch of them already, and then you can just like skin it and put your art on top of it. So that's super helpful. And so we kind of dove into those things and talked about the different aspects of it. So this month we really wanted to focus on some stuff that would help for the community to kind of sharpen your tools and get ready for the November VR Game Jam. Has anybody heard of the VR Jam in November? Anybody not heard of it? First time hearing about it? Right on. Well, jump in, sign up now at VR Austin Facebook page, I guess is a good way to find it, or vraustin.com/VRJam, I think is the, vraustin.org/VRJam. I'm sorry?
It's sold out.
So it's sold out, but
Second venue.
but stay tuned. Maybe some people are gonna be like, I actually can't make it, so check out the page and stay tuned, because that always happens. People are inevitable to have to back out. Maybe they have something with work or whatever.
Or get ambitious and just go put a team together anyways and go hang out in someone's house and then just build something for the hell of it alongside.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be people looking for artists, looking for other programmers. That's a big thing of what game jams are great for. So we wanted to talk about AR VR cross-platform development at this event, just because there's a slew of different platforms on the horizon coming out. There's the Steam VR, the Vive controllers, and the Oculus Touch controllers, and the PlayStation Move controllers, and various other hand controllers that are coming onto the market that are utilizing tracking technology. Vive or Steam VR just opened up its API to allow for the Lighthouse technology to be created or be accessed by third-party manufacturers. What that basically means is that we're going to get, by next year, we're going to have just a barrage of different peripherals that utilize the same tracking technology that Steam VR controllers utilize. And you're going to have pucks that you can put on your shoes. You're going to have things to put on your elbows. Maybe a 10-point system that though it is a lot of tracking mechanisms, and it costs more processing, you can really have a rock solid rigged character that's one for your movements in the room. So that's really cool. We have PlayStation VR. They just announced that that white gun control. I forget what they call it. The
Gun.
what is it?
Is it the Trinity or?
Trinity. Oh, so it's called something white and sleek. It's pretty neat. I got to play with it a little bit at PAX, and it's spot on. It feels nice to have that forward balanced kind of object. And with the API opening up, we're gonna start seeing like these peripheral manufacturers like Big Buck Hunter and things like that, that they're part of their manufacturing plan is the peripheral gun. We're gonna start seeing those. It's like tracked guns, which I'm really excited about. I want to see one made with like a metal barrel so it weighs like a gun, so you're feeling like, because holding a real gun up like this, that doesn't last very long. Your arms are gonna get tired, and you're gonna start shooting like that, or you're gonna like hold it here and then like pick it up to shoot it just like a real gun. So I'm looking forward to like some of that applicable training opportunities and stuff like that. The merge, Manus VR gloves. They're in my backpack. I couldn't think of the name. Those are magnetic strips that run down the top of your fingers in these gloves, and so you can track those objects and move them in and out. You know, and so you basically have really accurate tracked hand movements. What's good about that is that HTC Vive accelerator program just announced that they picked them up. So Manus VR became basically under the umbrella of that $100 million kitty that HTC was talking about. So that's awesome. That means that we're gonna get those gloves as soon as possible, and they're pushing it, you know, to work with the Vive, with Steam VR. So I can't wait to have some tracked gloves that I can walk around with.
So what's this little guy right here?
This right here is the Nod Ring. Has anybody seen the Nod Ring before?
Sounds scary.
Yeah, it's a couple people. They're pretty cool. It actually has a touchpad on it, so it's about the size of a ring. You can flip it around, and it has a sliding touchpad on it. It's got a button, so you kind of hold it like that, and you can like actually hit it. So you can just wear it on your finger, and it's magnetically tracked, so it's really cool. It works fantastically well, and you can have multiple of them. They also make another one that it's a little bit bigger, but it's a ring that you put your finger through, and it has a little joystick, kind of like the nunchuck off of the Wiimote. You know, the little controller with the joystick on it. It kind of looks like that with a finger hole through it. Pretty neat stuff. I know the owner of that, he came down last year for that AR VR Austin event at VUCA Lounge, and he showed those off and gave some away. Really cool. This is the Daydream controller. It is it's a new controller that Google is coming out with that uses the accelerometer and magnetometer in the device to accurately measure movement, and it does this calculation based upon like how you're moving it, that your arm is usually about like this and treated like a fulcrum about your center. So whenever you do like this, you can actually use it as a pointer, and it's really cool. Their API allows you to take another phone, the Nexus whatever, what was it called? Which Nexus?
6P.
The Nexus 6P. See, you know, a couple people
The
on
Nexus
top of it.
expensive.
The Nexus, yeah, expensive. The expensive phone. The Nexus 6P allows you to emulate that controller with the device, so you can like get a hold of that. And I have included in my slides here how you get into that program and how you can get that started. The Kinect, of course, which I believe is not dead. You know, though we don't have really hammering big content for it. Who here has seen that holoportation video with the HoloLens where the dude's talking to a little hologram of his daughter playing around real time? That is phenomenal, and it's based upon an involved version of their API, the Kinect API, which is basically an API that uses point cloud data generated from infrared sensors and algorithms based upon that point cloud. I mean, that's what Kinect's been doing for a decade now. And so a lot of what they've been doing with the Kinect actually ties into the HoloLens really well. So you can get the Kinect for $100 and get a head start on a lot of the stuff that you're going to want to be able to do for the HoloLens, especially for multiplayer kind of HoloLens stuff or for crowd management and stuff like that.
I like how you have, I don't know if you actually arranged this, but.
I did, I made this image.
Yeah, very nice. Yep.
My Photoshop ninja skills.
I mean, the important thing is like, so this is what we're used to, right? Just from, we have two things to hold on to. We have two thumb joysticks, and that was as close as we ever got. But this is a transition, so like, if you're thinking about the widest net you can cast is there's a gamepad, right? And you have some sort of VR device. Transforming into kind of tracked controllers, some analogs in between here, and we'll talk about it, but the actual human interface is what will come up down the line 2 or 3 years from now. And like, so it's not trivial to go from here to here, but it's doable. But from here to here, I'm worried about this for myself, because I'm like.
Can y'all hear him okay in the back? Is it good? Okay.
Good? All right.
A little bit louder? Would that be good?
Chris,
Yeah.
turn down fan.
Turned up. Yeah, Mike 2 chip.
Mic 2?
Yeah, that's the one. There. No.
Nope, not gonna do that.
It's hyper. I'll just be louder. But so the idea is like if these interfaces just become like something around your hand that's doing something incredibly complicated in the future, I'm intrigued and terrified about how I have to rethink what I've been doing with just having a controller in my hand versus having a hand that's like highly tactile. You can do stuff, you can do work. It's really interesting.
Yeah, one thing I left off here is the Leap Motion, which is dorky. But this controller is the only other one that we didn't talk about, which is right now the controller that's coming with both the Rift as well as a very similar controller that comes with the HoloLens. They call it the clicker with the HoloLens, and with the Rift, it's called, I don't even know what the name for it is. Like
It's just a
what was
remote.
that? It's that other remote that's not going to matter in the future. You know what I mean? But it works incredibly well. And if you look at it, and you look at the Daydream controller, it's essentially the exact same controller. So you can. This is a great opportunity to like, if you're like, well, what do I want to buy? What should I venture into buying? Should I buy the Oculus yet because the touch isn't out? I would say yes. It's a pretty great device. It's super clean. It's very lightweight. I'm kind of the school of I want to buy all of them though, so I can't really. It's not like should I buy this or should I buy that for me. It's really about like what does this one do that the other ones don't. Being light on your face is a big deal whenever you're talking about playing games for a good amount of time or doing some data management or simulating school and education. We're talking about the ability for VR to reach the masses, and what does that really mean for the masses? You're talking about kids. Yep. You're talking about professionals. And holding a heavy VR headset on your face gets real old. And so I think that's going to be one more thing that we see in the next round of VR headsets is a much lighter weight and sleeker design. Mm-hmm. And just we've already seen just from the past year new technology on the straps that hold it to your head. I mean, that was really cool. I mean, the evolution of these VR headsets and like how now you can put some of those headsets on, like the Vive is pretty heavy. And you put it on your face and it doesn't hurt your face, you know what I mean? Because of the angle that they put the head strap and where it attaches and stuff, it just kind of sits really nice. But I think that's going to evolve into some better stuff.
I think we're also fortunate that like just the different hardware manufacturers are making a concerted effort, like you noticed with the Rift and the Daydream controllers, to standardize these interfaces. Which they didn't have to do. Like it would suck to have to deal with all these different interfaces. So it's good to see that kind of consolidation.
Yeah, I mean the input. I mean, that's why we're here, right? It's like it's a scary thing to try to develop for just one when we don't know what the race is going to do. We all want to do PSVR, right? I mean, everybody would love to get a free dev kit for a PSVR, and just to have some documentation to look into what it does, but. There's some legalities behind getting into the PlayStation Developer Program, and we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit too. But the Fove is the white headset there on the left. It is a successfully kickstarted project, and they are implementing eye tracking technology inside of the headset. So you can kind of just look around and aim that cursor, which has some really amazing opportunities for focus and rendering capabilities. So one of the first things that you think about is selecting things with your eyes. That's okay. It's actually not what you want. You still want to select things from your hands. It does allow you to select like large things with your eyes, but whenever you're dealing with intricate buttons and objects far away from you, your eyes actually dart around objects whenever you look at them. You don't usually just look at an object and just your eye doesn't lock on and look at it. Even though you're focused on it, your eye actually usually bounces all over. If you look at somebody's face, there's like tracking similarities on every person's face that you look at. Usually you do the same thing. You usually look at the bottom left, top right, and it zigzags around until you pick up their face. And then your eye keeps doing that. So what it works really well for is focusing on objects and tracking people's attention. So VR, you're able to reach people's attention even stronger than on a 2D screen, right? And even more so sometimes than in real life. You can totally immerse that person and take over their focus. With eye tracking, especially with like training opportunities, that's gonna revolutionize being able to gauge somebody's attention on a subject or
intention.
Marketing.
Like,
You know what I
they
mean? Like,
plan on doing.
I'm sorry.
Like intention, what they actually plan on doing before they do it is like that's some really heavy stuff.
Yeah, driving and marketing, right? You look at a shopping aisle, and now we can like track the colors and the shapes of the logos that draw people's attention the most immediately. I mean, that's going to evolve marketing. It's going to evolve fashion, because we're gonna have people looking at fashion runways, and like these are people like, a fashionista might say one thing, but their eyes don't lie. What they're looking at, what they're focusing on don't lie, And so I'm imagining the fashion industry is going to take this, and we're going to end up seeing like within 5 years, we're going to have some funky looking, we already have some funky looking fads, but we're going to have like gold belts and like some weird logos on shirts and stuff, mainly because we're going to learn that certain things catch the eye more. So there's definitely a wide variety of things to focus on whenever you're looking to ship a professional product and try to get into a marketplace, and how are you going to make money in 2017 doing VR. Samsung Gear VR, that is a phenomenal marketplace that's being pushed by the largest manufacturer of circuitry in the world. Samsung is just pushing that. They're giving them away for free with the S7s.
I got one.
He's got one,
Yeah.
and it's actually a really great device for mobile VR. It's got a lot of legs, and I think they said that there's already over 1 million people using it with a Gear VR. The Vive, of course, phenomenal. Steam VR, love it. Then all the rest of the hardware proliferators. Magic Leap, I think, is one that we haven't been seeing a lot of, but we're about to. It's just they are mixed reality smart glasses, they call them. The difference between mixed reality and augmented reality, they say, is that since they're doing forward projection of a point cloud data, and they're scraping the room just like HoloLens is doing, where their forward-facing infrared camera is picking up the surface, and then they're using that surface to do mixed reality, basically placing 3D objects into that and interacting with the surface, like putting a screen on the wall, or having spiders crawling along the floor towards you, or having your pet there that you can play with, or whatever it is, telling you to go over here and turn this knob, and it's putting a little arrow on the knob. That's the difference between like augmented reality and mixed reality. Augmented reality would be, it doesn't really take in the I guess it's all virtual reality, and as far as I'm concerned, if it's not me and you and there's a little floating alien, that's pretty virtual, right?
Mistletoe.
So
I was gonna say about the HoloLens, like to go to that, the surface detection. What's really cool is it will tag this table. It will detect that it's this high compared to how high you are, and it'll say that's a table. Then the developer can decide there's appropriate things on a table versus a wall versus a chair, and that's really cool. It's gonna kind of pick up and get more detailed, I think.
So yeah, spatial recognition and object recognition is some really cool stuff that we're not really seeing a lot of, but Apple owns Meta.io, which owns the copyright for doing object recognition. They had, back 4 years ago, they had an example of an infrared camera that looked at a TV, and it said, and little TV popped, like it said that this is a TV. This is like 4 years ago. where they had that technology and Apple bought it and they've been sitting on it. But I predict that Apple's going to be coming out with some really cool stuff for augmented reality and virtual reality in the near future because of some of their big acquisitions and IP plays.
I just can't believe they've been so successfully quiet about it.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing, but like I said, I think the first time we see what they're working on, it's going to be with some movie star wearing them, and we're going to be like, oh, those look so good. Finally, they look great. I have a pair of the Epson Maverio BT300s. There's only a couple of those in the U.S., so I brought those tonight. They're pretty cool. Augmented reality smart glasses. And so if you want to check them out afterwards, let me know. There's a lot of really cool content developers pushing hard to try to get products out. And that's what's going to solve it for this local market. So if you're working on something, your most important thing is to do whatever it takes to get that finished. Whether it's you need to find 2 other people to work with to figure it out, or you need to find that one other person. That should be right now your biggest priority, because we're looking at a hockey stick of funding and just purchasing from the marketplace. And there's in relation to the Apple Store, we are just very young in the marketplace. It feels like it's already getting old for some of us that have been in it for a while, but I mean, really, we haven't even seen the tip yet. The very beginning of the hit is about to happen with the PSVR. That's going to be the first time that we're going to have mass sales of VR equipment, and Sony's really the first one that can do that can pay however many billions of dollars it's going to cost for them to get PSVRs in all of the stores by Christmas time, right? And maybe they won't even. Maybe they were thinking about it and they backed off but I predict that they will. I hope that they will. I hope that it's not just the pre-order sales that happen and they don't have anything ready for Black Friday or Cyber Monday. I'm really hoping that PS4 does some kind of power play saying, if you buy a PS4 on Black Friday, you pay this extra $200 or something, you're pre-ordering the next run of PSVRs. Imagine all the things that Sony can do to make you want it. I mean, they're going even if you don't get it on Black Friday, chances are this is gonna be the one that they're finally gonna see some sales. We're gonna start seeing mega sales on bundled computers with VR headsets. We're gonna see Oculus and Vive bundling at Best Buy with a $700 computer or something. They just announced a $700 VR ready computer, brand new. So.
And that's when the economies of scale are going to kick in. So, like right now is the greatest time to get involved with this stuff. Like if it's mobile, if it's tethered to a PC, like right now is the greatest time. And my biggest piece of advice to jump on what you were saying with find somebody to help you get a project done if you're trying to get something done. Go to as many of these sort of meetups as you can and just talk to people you don't know, and like talk to people that have like no similar interest, kind of artist versus developer versus so on, because that's when you'll start getting ideas that you didn't have, right? Or ways to finish things easier than you would have done on your own. So like, I don't know, Austin's great for that, just in terms of meeting people with similar interests, but different perspectives. But we have like a year until that ramps up, and then it's go time.
Yeah, so right now, the most important thing is, hey, I have this thing I'm passionate on. How much is it going to cost me to get it done? I can't really make any money on it. That's a great project to partner with people on, and give them an equal share, because you're not going to make any freaking money off of it. So give them an equal share and get this done, because how money is being made right now from the people that are making money in VR are, I made this thing, now people know I made this thing, and they're reaching out to me to get this other thing made, because they have money in the bank, and that's what I'm looking for people to make it. Austin is heavy with that. I'm looking for somebody to make my thing, or we're a B2B experience that we want to make, and we don't know the game developer that might do it, or the person with medical coding background that also knows something about AR and VR. That is going to be so heavy by next year that they want, so the way they're going to find you is they're going to look in the store and say, that's the best way. They can't, I mean, you can go to all these events you want, you can talk about what you want to do, but
Put something out there.
getting something finished is the most important thing to do in the software industry.
Yep.
Getting something finished. Because you could work for 8 years, and if you don't finish anything, then your resume and portfolio is actually still going to be very small. Get these things finished, get them out the door, get them onto the marketplace, because the marketplace shipping part is one of the biggest spots, and that's where people stumble, because they made it for one marketplace and then they're trying to push it over to this other one, and they didn't prepare for that at the beginning, and so then they have to kind of rework a lot of stuff. And so that's why we wanted to focus on that today, for cross-platform focus at the beginning. It's important to know where you're going. And if you don't know where you're going, it's important to make your design very vague as far as like how my inputs are going to control my functionality. So that way, whenever Google Daydream comes out and you made something last year, I know a lot of people that made Gear VR titles and they're out and they're not going to port them to Google Daydream. Because they totally made everything for Gear VR, and just to even make them for Google Daydream, they're like, I just want to make a new game.
Yeah, just
Because
never-
it's like almost as much work as making a new game.
Yeah, never corner yourself, right? And so not even just with input, but also like Finn's saying, like marketing and promotion, which are kind of gaps in terms of, at least for me, like being like code nerd, you know, head to the computer. Those are things to be aware of, because it's way more complex than just like putting an app on the App Store. You know, you have to deal with all of these entities at the same time, so maybe while you're building a game, just, you don't have to worry too much about it, but just be aware. Like, go poke around in Oculus Store and like see how that process goes, and know about it ahead of time, so you don't like start stepping on landmines when your game's done.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of different things to think about with shipping a game. You know, once you get onto the store, once you're ready to submit, you got screenshots, you got logos, you got icons, you got descriptions, you got your bank account information. If you start doing that now, you're ready. You're ready for next year. You're ready to make money. And without it, you're not really ready to make money. I know a lot of people that are really cutting their teeth into this stuff, but they haven't shipped a game, and so they're like, or they haven't shipped an experience, they haven't closed off that loop and said, this is how much work it is, and now I can accurately gauge and invoice my time, and predict and quote my time for the next project. Because you're gonna have somebody from UPS come and say, hey, can you do this thing for me? And you either need to say, this is gonna cost you $5,000, this is gonna cost you $15,000, or your idea is very grand and it's gonna cost you $50,000, or it's going to cost you $100,000, or your idea is big and it's not going to be able to be finished until next year, and it's going to take 15 people and it's going to cost $1 million to make, and let's raise that money and get it done.
Yeah.
That's a realistic thing that they're looking for. Like, they had $3 million. They thought you were going to say $3 million, and you only said $1 million, right? So that's the kind of thing to know what they're looking for and how to gauge that stuff and how to accurately bid it. As a programmer nerd, I usually don't like to think about that kind of shit, because I'm like, I just want to paint.
Yep.
You know what I
I
mean?
just want to build things.
I just
Please
wanna-
give me money, I'll build things.
Yeah, but give me money. But that's not how they work.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't want to even know how it's built. I just want to pay you money and get it.
And
You know what I mean?
That comes from actually, like, when you build something and release it, and you understand, like, oh, cool. And this is kind of out of scope of the conversation, but it's very important with all of these things going up, with like enterprise applications coming into VR, gaming being profitable. Building something and knowing the value to yourself of something that you built, A, feels really good, but B, also gives you the ability to relatively estimate other things people come at you with. Like, if someone is ready to pay you, you know, $100,000 and you say $10,000, now you're slaving away, and it's just you, and it's a terrible experience, and you're gonna hate it, and you're gonna quit, and that's gonna be it. But if you can value your time and be able to estimate it properly and like break things down, I think that's just vital to be aware of, because it's easy to just be, I want to build stuff, like I want to do this now, but stop and think and be able to break things down into chunks that you can charge money for and do this for fun.
Right, yeah. Gauge where you want to be next year with what kind of job you want to get into, where you want your studio that you're currently at to be able to be working on and to be able to pull the kind of contracts that you want to be working on. Or at that point, I want to be full-fledged into something that's going to be ready in 2 years. Understand where that's coming from and be able to properly gauge that, because the $10,000 is going to look great. They're ready to pay you that. But if it's not worth it, then it's not worth it. If it's going to take you 6 months and you're going to get $10,000, well, you only have 12 months until this time next year. So don't waste that time working on something that's devaluing your time as a professional. Because right now, everybody in this room is worth gold. You know, this is a fun time that you're here learning this stuff. So some of the stuff we wanted to talk about with cross-platform input controls, without showing you snippets of code, are an input manager. So an input manager is typically the way that you I don't know, vagify. What I don't know the
Abstract away.
Abstractron your inputs away. So imagine this: you set up a Vive game. I'm building a Vive game. I want to pick up a gun. I want to shoot the gun. I want to pick up a knife. I want to throw the knife, right? And in my code, I'm doing, if Steam VR button 1 is pulled,
You'll do it.
activate grab, okay? And then it's all the other things proliferated. If my menu, if I press Steam VR button 4, open up this menu and use the Steam VR position to accurately gauge where my hand is, and all my Steam VR centric controls for all my different functionality, for my UI, for my gameplay, for my petting, my dog, all my different things are stuck to Steam VR. Now it's PlayStation VR, and the controls are different, and the mapping is different, and those calls are different. You'd have to remake your entire experience. You'd have to go through everywhere that it's Steam VR and build that. That is the bane that stops people from usually porting their game.
Sure.
And so that's what we wanted to get in front of. So the way you accurately do that is plan your inputs, plan your functionality. A lot of times programmers, when you're prototyping, you don't plan for the future. You're like, no, I just want to see if this works. Cool, it works. If you did do that, that's the right time to then stop and say, but I'm going to make it work with my input controller.
Yeah.
Okay?
Don't get stuck.
The way your input controller works is, I want to make Bob's Burger game, right? Latch onto a cool IP, make that game focused on that IP. That's where the money's going to be for 2017, is around IP, because that's what's going to pull the mass market in. So those are the games that are going to be the ones that get backed by Steam, get backed by Vive, get backed by Oculus and Facebook, get backed by HBO, get backed by all these different big companies, Warner Brothers, Disney, whatever. They're going to be looking to use their IP to ramp it in and get part of that hockey stick, and they're going to be looking like to developers like you. But the thing is that hardware is proliferating, so we don't even know what kind of controllers. Like I was saying, HTC Vive is just now, I mean, not Vive, but Steam VR Lighthouse technology is multi-tracked object technology, we'll call it. That is, we're not even there yet. We have 2. And we have a 3rd controller that you can bring in and be able to use for mixed reality. But I'm talking like pucks on your shoes. I'm talking, a belt that has it on it, all kinds of stuff. And those are going to be the experiences that people want to implement. And so you want to be able to utilize those things in the thing that you've been starting right now, right? 6 months from now, whenever you have access to this new hardware, you're going to want to be able to do that easily. And so think of it as we were talking about. Instead of if Steam VR button 1, it's if Bob Burger controller button 1 is pressed, then do this. If Bob Button's grip is released, do this. Then when the Oculus Touch or the focused with the Oculus runtime or the Steam VR or the Gear VR, which doesn't even have controllers right now, and you just look at it and you tap and hold, you can have other scripts that accompany that input manager that say, for my Gear VR build, touching and holding creates creates Bob Burgers input 1. For my Steam VR, if it's a Steam VR build, holding the trigger creates Bob's Burger button 1.
Yeah.
If my PlayStation Move controller, I pull that trigger, then I have 4 different scripts now. One running for the Gear VR if it's a Gear VR build. One running for the Oculus build. One running for the Touch. One running for the Vive. One running for the PlayStation VR. One running for the Nod Ring, right? Because maybe Nod paid me something to be able to flip burgers with the Nod Ring, right? Because Doom, 50 grand for like a really easy implementation. It took one script to make my entire game work with your cool hardware. That's where you want to be, because the big hardware providers are going to pay you to port your game this next year if it's a cool game. Like, there's actually money.
Some of them are already doing it.
They're already doing it.
Yeah.
They're looking to, like, not only maybe they won't pay you, there's an opportunity to give you free hardware and for you to get it into the marketplace without it costing you a month of work,
Yep.
right? Because that time is money,
Yeah,
right? So you want.
and people are looking at it.
I'm sorry.
People are looking at it like,
Yeah, you
put something out there.
You want
no
that.
matter
So
what it is.
so think of your inputs, and the way that starts, go back another step and say, okay, I have this functionality that I'm going to want to obfuscate. How do I then plan that? Plan everything with pseudocode. I like to do it with pseudocode. What's also really great about planning with pseudocode, is anybody unfamiliar with pseudocode? It's okay if you're. So pseudocode is when you're typing code and you just do / and then you can type whatever, and the code and the script doesn't read that in. It's just typing. That's how you comment your code as well. Is like, I'm gonna write the Bob Burger pickup thing. I would do like / this is an action that allows me to grab things. Right, and then anything after that / doesn't get compiled with the code, and so you can comment your code throughout it. But that's how I would start it as well. That would be the first thing that I'd put in there. I just open up a text doc. You can do it on a text doc. You can do it on a dry erase board.
Yep.
Bullet points. You can turn your bullet points into pseudocode, and those are really good for artists to be able to help you design your game. Other VR enthusiasts, kids, you can get these ideas down, but getting them down is the key. Because me and Jim Cherry in the back there, owner of Service Media. Jim, raise your hand. Yeah, that's an amazing wizard right there of technology. He is the dude that got me into Unity, and he jumps headfirst into a lot of stuff. He just recently got all the Daydream stuff to work, and he's just that kind of dude. What we try to do is, like, we'll go every Saturday morning and walk around Town Lake and brainstorm just different things. And what do I end up with? Well, I end up with a little bit less belly, and I end up with a lot of ideas that then might help me brainstorm the next time. But I don't gather many of those, right? Whenever you're when you have an ability to gather ideas, when you're brainstorming, when you go to a game jam, whenever you're focusing at one of these events, whenever you go out downtown and you're talking with other professionals, jot your ideas down. Take your phone out and, like, do bullet points. Once I started doing bullet points in my phone, like he's got his notebook, like, it's very, very, very productive. Very productive.
Especially
like,
if
treat
you're
it like
forgetful.
school. I'm sorry?
If you're forgetful.
Yeah,
it's
if you're
super
like a space case like me, then it helps to have that kind of structure and, like, go back to those things.
Please.
And then part of that is the pseudocode. You can just email your stuff that. You can email yourself the bullet points that you wrote down that you maybe chatted with, or maybe you take a picture of the dry erase board and then you just have that picture and you type that in. That becomes your pseudocode. Sometimes pictures become my pseudocode. Like, I'm, like, sketching out, like, it's gonna look like this, and, like, you're gonna be able to pick up this burger and, like, flip it. Okay, I want to pick up a burger and flip it. I want it to flip, and I want it to land on one of the sides. Okay, that's my functionality. How am I going to do that? I want it to accurately land on the other side that I just flipped it. But I want to, like, if I flip it harder, I want it to, like, flip multiple times, but still always land on the next side because I just finished flipping it, right? And it's like this fun thing. Well, then part of that would be, like, planning that pseudocode out, saying, okay, I'm gonna press the trigger button, and that's going to be my grip. I'm going to measure my distance offset of my positional tracked hand or my feeler, right? Think of it as a feeler. Think of your hand as a feeler, and then you don't need your hands. A lot of people have a hard time of gathering, like, how am I going to make my Steam VR game that uses hand tracks work with the Gear VR that doesn't have hand tracking yet? Think of your hands as feelers that are out in front of you, right? You have the ability to move these feelers around right now with your hands, but if you didn't and you just had your hand and you still had that feeler, you could use your head to use that feeler and then touch and then different things with the touchpad to utilize hands, right? So that's a great step of being able to like interact with things on the surface, in the environment, and you don't have to just do ray casting from your head. A lot of people you go back to that because you have this cursor here, and this just basically becomes a ray casting cursor. I don't have like a hand there. I don't have a thing that like whenever I grab it, it's gonna like pick that thing up. You know what I mean? And so, but you could do it if you just planned it the right way in the beginning.
You know what's interesting too is kind of, especially where everyone comes from so many different backgrounds, but also lands on the first hardware device that they get their hands on. So, like I threw away my summer to make sure I had a Gear VR and a rig that would buy it, that would run it. But some people picked up the Gear VR and like got it, and they're like, "Let's go." It's interesting to see where they start from a development perspective, and then how to plan forward or backward based on, you know, if you have like a super rig and you're someone comes up and says, "Awesome game, like you did a great job, and like we want that in Gear VR, and we'll pay you X." Like, how do I do that? You know, so and then vice versa. You know, how do you take a mobile game without track controls and just abstract away your ideas about input interfaces.
So show of hands again, who's not very familiar with Unity? It's okay not to be familiar with it yet. Good. Well, this slide's for you. I'll be sharing the slide on the meetup page, so please feel free to pull it and go to all the links and steal my images that I made. It's all good.
Stealing that first one.
Yeah, so I included links to the Unity VR tutorial, which is a really great walkthrough. These are very short little videos that can really jumpstart you into developing VR experiences with Unity. And this is a great one because you don't even need to have a background in Unity. It gets you started as if like, I want to do VR. Oh, Unity does VR? Here, let me look at Unity. And it's got some great hooks in there of like, okay, now that you're done with this, did you understand that? If you didn't understand this and this, go back to these. And it just does it really well. The VR examples are based upon the tutorial that they give for free. These are 5 short VR interactive examples that are in a scene. They're free, they're open source. You can use the art and the tech that they've built for whatever you want. There's a flying one, a maze one, a curved UI one, so you can like reach out and have this curved UI panels, and there's interactions there, so it's very helpful. And you can just download that, open it, and kind of reverse engineer it. The Unity documentation on VR is basically, this is how I like to learn things. I like PDF style documentation versus video stuff. And so if you go through these, like the VR overview gives you a lot of information about building VR, stuff, and the VR devices gives you information about all the different platforms and stuff. OpenVR versus Oculus. It's very early right now, but there's other things that are right on the cusp of, if you understand this, you'll understand very easily once they open up the next couple of supported platforms.
Yeah.
So again, if you want to jump in here, I'll be sharing these slides. Oculus, they really pushed. They were the first to really push into this marketplace. So we really do owe them a debt for proving that the consumer that there is somewhat of a market. With their Kickstarter, they proved it and they got this whole ball rolling. So Oculus Developer Portal, if you jump in here, it gives you a great introduction to VR as well as some great white papers of like things to think about and like gameplay to kind of plan your stuff around. So I urge you to jump in there, and it's got the game engine support and really all you need to know about the documentation.
as well as if you can get a cool prototype working for them, they'll send you a free Gear VR. They'll send you a free Rift. You just gotta
Do something real good for Rift. Yep.
I mean, yeah, and be working on something. You know, work on something and
Be passionate about it. Like, have a drive behind it. Don't just do it for the sake of it, you know, and they'll recognize that, you know.
they really do. They have an amazing developer outreach program. There's me being a dork last year at the VR Jam that HTC came with Valve and put together a really awesome VR Jam in down at the VUCA Lounge, or I should say Robert put it together, helped put that together. Robert Breckenridge, if y'all don't know, is a local developer here in the front row, if you want to raise your hand. He's owns his own studio and does some also really cool VR stuff, a lot of VR focus. And he and I also co-organize the Unity developer meetup group here in Austin. So if you're wanting to learn more about Unity and stuff and you haven't been to those are pretty cool. I included some really great just links here for the Steam VR documentation versus Open VR documentation. The differences of the Open VR project is 35 different headset manufacturers have announced that they're building for the Open VR versus Steam VR, but it's really the same thing once it hits the marketplace. Once it hits the marketplace, it's just an experience on Steam, right? But Open VR is the API that the headset is able to give output to, right? Like positional, like headset position vector 3. That's now there's 35 different headsets that are manufacturing that. It's going to drive the price down in the next couple of years.
It's all against the same spec too, so you can kind of, like, the driver will take care of it for you, and you just...
Yes, sir.
Is OpenVR different than the OSVR?
So yes, so OSVR. His question was: is OpenVR different from OSVR? OSVR stands for Open Source VR, which I guess OpenVR is just like, nah, we're gonna get in front of you there, Razer. But we do owe Razer a lot. I actually have a slide. I think that might be the next, not the next one, but you're close. PlayStation VR. It is a really amazing device. This is the rear-facing infrared double camera there that has evolved out of the PlayStation since the PlayStation 3. Very similar technology to what the Kinect is doing. It's tracking these Move controllers, and you basically have your hand controllers. And the DualShock controller is also tracked, so you can use that as the same way as, like, we're seeing those other little puck controllers. So if you want to get into to be able to develop for PlayStation, you have to register as a PlayStation developer. It's free, but you do have to register. You have to have a corporate entity and give them, like, your tax ID to do that. So if you don't have a tax ID, but you're really trying to get in this field and you have questions about that, or if you're unsure, please feel free to reach out to me. I've also been recently focusing on a lot of that crap too. It's not the funnest, it's not the most fun way, but if you have questions, I'd be happy to, like, answer whatever I can, but don't lawyer me, bro, because I'm not a lawyer.
Setting
So
up an LLC is a lot easier than you would think. At least, like, being very basic. If you're trying to not put your personal tax info on Steam when you're trying to sell games, then you can start an LLC, and then you can't stop the hype. You're just like, okay, I started my business. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do this.
is anybody kind of looking to try to get that done and push forward on that? Nice, that's a good show of hands. I mean, so understanding the difference between why you'd want an LLC versus a Class C, and where you should file your Class C or where you should file your LLC, even though you're paying your taxes in Austin and the income's going to be a Texas income. Sometimes it's important to understand where you want to file your company, because maybe you're trying to create a company that's your sole purpose is to become acquired or to take on VC funding, and it's not necessarily the thing that's going to, like, I'm going to make this and turn around a profit really quick. It's, I'm going to make this company that pulls contract jobs, right? I want to make a company that can operate professionally, pull contract jobs, and it no longer is my personal income, it's my company's income. That would be a good position for an LLC. I want to make a company that it's this really cool experience, and I want to pull some VC funding so I can have 2 years of runway. then you might want to file a Class C, because those VCs can basically buy in shares from your company and they don't have to pay taxes that first year. So that's why they like buying shares in a Class C. So if you want to know more about that boring crap, let me know. 'Cause it's not very fun. It was like a pain in my brain trying to learn this stuff.
It's not fun until there's money.
Yeah, if there's money though, it's like, oh, I'll learn it. You know, the Fove again. This is a really cool product, and I included the link that you can go to their site and order it. It's actually a very sleek site. We'll check it out. It's beautiful. They pulled a lot of funding, and they announced that they're also supporting the Steam VR lighthouses. So you're going to be able to use your Fove with your eye tracking in your room scale, right? And again, I'm the kind of nerd that just wants like every headset. So I'm like, I have to have it. It's
Yeah.
so cool. Oh my God, it's in her eye.
Yikes.
And so that's just it's not here yet, but it's one of those things as well. If you have something that would work well for it, they'll push it out for you. Open source VR, OSVR. Razer is an amazing company. They're doing some really great things and pushing hard for getting some awesome VR ready hardware coming down the pipe. This is the Razer Blade 17-inch, and they're about to come out with a 4K screen on this with a 1080 onboard card. So it's not like a mobile card. It's not the laptop card. It's like it's VR ready laptop that's the size of an iMac.
Yeah, and these tiny ones.
Or I mean a MacBook.
These guys, yeah, this is
I call it the
basically-
black book.
Yeah, that's basically a form factor of MacBook Pro, but they have also external GPU boxes that you can dump a desktop card into, which I'm lugging around a 30-pound Alienware.
Yeah,
machine
versus
right
this
now,
thing, it'd be
versus
great.
this in a tiny box that can fit in my backpack.
So yeah, there's some great links here. OSVR is supported by Razer. They also have the developer portal and their Unity package to develop for it. And this is how you get the dev kit if you want it. They have some cool people that actually work for Razer here in Austin. So if you're interested in that and you have something that's worthy of getting you a free headset, they're open to play ball.
Also be aware with OSVR, like it's great software, but it's also came from a hacker mentality. So it's kind of it feels to me coming from like Arduino and stuff. Like it's really fun to be able to play around and have more control over the hardware.
Yeah, so if you're an engineering interest of any kind, you want to reverse engineer and take your headset apart or do some stuff like that, I implore you.
There's your jam.
This is the Perception Neuron.
Oh shit, you have
It's
it.
a full body tracking suit. I think it's like $6,000. I'm not sure how much it is. They sent it to me for free, which is cool. To us, I should say. But it has these little. Well, it's all packaged back up now. It has these little pads are about the size of a nickel, and then they exist onto these different strapped on pieces, and they have them on the hands that go out to the fingers. If you saw on that first slide over in the corner, I had that cool looking little. There was the glove, but then there was the other one which just had little clamps on the fingers. This one, that's a company here in Austin that's making this that got pulled in with them. So they're making the hand component. I forget the name of their product, but they're here in Austin, and I'm trying to get them to come out to a future event. They have a developer portal, and they're definitely open to play ball because they're coming down the pipe hard. They're another group that got adopted into the Vive program, so this is something worthy of, like, even if it's just, make you have your Gear VR thing and then make it work with the Perception without controllers in your hand. I'm not Gear VR, your Vive controllers. Like, here's my Vive controller game. Let me make this like transitional to be able to work with that. Reach out to these people and it's really cool to have your hands free without controllers and still have your hands in the game.
He's not wearing pants.
I'm sorry?
He's not wearing pants.
And he's not wearing. You don't even have to wear pants. So the Virtuix Omni is Virtuix is a company here in Austin as well. They were on Shark Tank and knocked out a cool, successful round recently for funding. And I know those cats. Robert was the content development lead. I think was. I don't remember what your title was. He led the content development team and did a lot of stuff with them for years, and it's a really cool apparatus. I just went by their studio again today at lunch and play tested their latest stuff, and it's really neat. I mean, I was running around. I was running around an arena, but in one place, so it's pretty cool. The Epson Maverio, that is the smart glasses I was telling you about that has the projected light field technology refracting right into the lens. The controller is, if you look at it, it's also very similar to to the Daydream controller, to the Oculus controller, and the Daydream API for Google VR that works with the Daydream, it works for this Android device as well. So not just the Nexus 6P in order to be able to do that, you can have your screen on your face, and this Android device basically replicates your secondary Android device too, which you'd have. So that controller is really cool. It's got all the kind of stuff. This is a touchpad, and then this is another touchpad with a button in the center.
So the controller is basically an Android, like a screenless Android phone, right?
Yeah, this is an Android device. It's
cool.
And then this is the BT200 that came out, I guess, 2 years ago now. I have some of those as well. I helped them write their user documentation for their plugin on the Unity store, and they gave me a pair, and they gave Jim a pair, and they're looking to give more pairs away. They'll actually, if you have something that works with Google Cardboard, it can port directly over to this, and they'll give you $500 per app that you port over. So, and pretty much for anything. So if you want to just knock out some stuff, that's some easy money. Pay the bills.
Yeah, and learn at the same time is the best part.
I'm sorry?
Learn things as you go.
Yeah, I mean, and it's pretty cool. I mean, these are neat. So if you want to check them out afterwards, let me know. And I included some links in here for the developer portal, which is where you can sign up for that program, the Unity plugin on the Asset Store, as well as a cool app challenge that they do yearly. Merge VR. Anybody heard of Merge VR? Well, they are it's basically like a Google Cardboard, slides in your phone, and you can use it, but it's super soft. It's like a Nerf foam kind of surface. And they announced that they're also having a controller, which you can see the similarities in the controller. Even if this is not their eventual end result, you can see kind of that theme going of a thumb pad and some buttons. And so you can start creating these things and just even stubbing out your ideas of how you're going to make a cross-platform game and plan that stuff out. Google Cardboard, right? It's a slew of different pieces of cardboard doing all kinds of cheap ways to get VR out to the public. A lot of big companies are paying for custom-skinned VR headsets, like 5,000 of them, and they send them all out. Jim and I worked on a cool project that it was like a safety company, and it was a marketing company that was working with this insurance company, and they wanted to do this safety experience, and they printed out however many 5,000 or 40,000, I don't remember how many VR headsets, crap ton of VR headsets with the QR code on it and their logo and everything. So there's big money looking at how to do this. So if you're somebody that has a simple Google Cardboard app on the Android Play Store, that is gold for 26. The rest of 2016 and 2017, I know like 10 people that have reached out to me just probably this month that are looking to do stuff, you know what I mean? And so I'm always pointing them towards people because it's just like every industry is trying to get into this space. So he's got a Google Cardboard in the back.
That's Lowe's. You can go in and get one free at Lowe's. You
Yeah.
go sit down at Lowe's in their booth and design your kitchen.
Oh, cool. So you can design their kitchen. Exactly. I mean, And so somebody probably charged a pretty penny for that little kitchen design experience. They got to do it. And it was probably the same person that had made whatever application that they saw that they said, we want to get this person to make our kitchen experience. And we'll pay and we'll buy, you know, $60,000 worth of cardboards to have at every Lowe's around the U.S.
And that experience.
Two of them in Colorado, I don't know where they're at now, but they're also, like, this is a HoloLens, that Lowe's is doing it with the HoloLens too. Yeah. It's like 2 or 3 places.
Yeah, so jump in there, meet that dude, and work with him on a HoloLens game, and you can get a Lowe's contract or a Home Depot contract to compete. You know what I'm saying? And so Google VR, this is the one that is predicting to be in front next year. So PlayStation VR is going to end the year really strong. There's strong predictions of the content that's going to come out for PlayStation VR, paid by Sony. That's going to make PlayStation VR be like, this is the #1 headset right now. And it maybe even strong into next year. But this has the opportunity to reach millions of people very quickly. Google VR, this little device right here, this changes it because it makes you really feel like you have your hand in there and you're completely untethered. So whether it's that with a phone on your face or it's another kind of smart glass, technology that you're wearing for Magic Leap or whatever, that's going to be a norm, I think. Having a very lightweight controller, maybe even something that uses technology with the nod kind of stuff to where you have this thing that can snap to your hand. That first one that I showed you, that was the hand component for the body tracking suit. That is wireless Bluetooth, right? Wireless Bluetooth fingers. So I think this stuff is just coming down the pipe. And so how do you plan for that though without the technology, without the hardware? How do you plan to build your experience right now with the right way? Because you could very well just build your experience right now for one type of hardware, but you're going to create more work for you in 2017 whenever you have an opportunity to get this stuff, So that's what's really important right now is 2017. Right now is when you plan for that stuff. So again, build out an input controller script and stub out all of your different inputs and say, I want to have 7 buttons per controller potentially, right? And so I have Bob's Burger, left hand button 1 through 7, axis 1 through 5 if you're going to be doing different axes, and then measure those out. That's how you start your input controller. Just pseudocode it out, then create those variables of these are the ones I need, and then create some simple functionality. You don't do Bob's Burger flip. You just say Bob's Burger input 1 is registered as an event. You create these events. And so if you're unfamiliar with like events and delegates, Unity has some great tutorials on that. How that basically works is instead of like creating something that code is running through all the different if statements and saying, if button 1 is pressed, do all this. If button 2 is pressed, do all this. If button 3 is pressed, do all this section of code. And then every single frame, it has to cook through all of that code over and over. What events are, event delegates are, is you can create an event and declare saying, every time button 1, my generic button 1 is pressed, or I want to create a definition for generic button 1. Okay, generic button 1 is now a definition. It's now a possible delegate. Now I want to create an event now I want to have like 4 different scripts. I want to have one for the Gear VR. I want to have one for Oculus Touch. I want to have one for PSVR. I want to have one for Vive, right? And I want to have the same functionality between them. So in those, I say, okay, I want to create an event based upon that delegate saying that, okay, whenever I press Steam VR trigger button 1, that equals the delegate. Now I've created an event, right? And so now you can, you declare that as like an event, right? So now anytime Steam VR is trigger is pressed, then in any other script, that's like a global thing, right? Now in any other script, now I can just say, if Bob's Burger button 1 is pressed, I can actually do that specific to the code. Like now I can do my gameplay for like I'm in the scene where I'm flipping burgers. And so that was for my Vive, but in my Gear VR, like I was talking about, like that's a different kind of input, right? There's like a touchpad where I'm measuring my tap. So if tap and hold equals the same the same Bob's Burger input 1, right? And so now I have 2 different things in my project that can give me the same input. And now I can build my gameplay around my input. Or rather, I can build my gameplay regardless of my input, regardless of whether a new controller comes out next year by Apple that we just have to port over to. And so you've already planned it for Daydream, and so Daydream development would be something that is very important for, because, I mean, people are going to maybe buy this as it trickles out, but they're Android consumers. So Android consumers like free shit, and they like the cheaper version. So it's on the climb, but you want to talk about people that waste money. Let's talk about iPhone. You know what I'm saying? Like that is where people waste their money. The kid that has the device in the back seat and they have their parents' authorization to spend up to $30. Oh, you spent $45. You better do more homework. Those kind of kids. Those are iOS devices, right? That's where the whales are. That's where a lot of those big sales are. And so you want to build something for Daydream, which you can get by the end of this year, but with the prediction that there's going to be a huge marketplace on Apple next year for 2017, and you don't want to spend any kind of time porting your device over. I just want to like make one more script that supports Apple, and now all of my inputs work for the Apple device. I could do that in maybe 5 hours. I could have my entire game ported. So one day, right? You could have it onto a new device. Oh, I finally got a PSVR. Boom, one more day to get it working on the PSVR. That's huge. You can actually start, and then you can use that kind of wrapper on all your experiences. So that's just.
And just to add to that, to anyone that's been using Unity for a while, because I dropped off like 2014, it was like 4 point something, right? If you come from pre-Unity events and you've ignored them or you're not aware of them, for the love of your code, it literally turns all the spaghetti code you've built in all these controllers and managers inside out. And like Finna said, the behaviors in the game define where that, like you centralize the control, right? So instead of having this huge if statement in an GUI or whatever, you're only doing things when you need to. It's more performant, and it's, I don't know, if you're not used to it and you're used to kind of basic to intermediate coding, it's a very tiny learning curve. But the tutorials about how to do the event system are pretty easy to get through, and then once you do, you're gonna see other plugins that you use that are using the event system, and you're gonna understand how to leverage that. You know?
This can be one of the ones that's a little bit daunting too.
Yeah.
Even though it's not that hard to wrap your head around it once you're understanding what it's trying to show you. The thing is like just like I explained it, I hope I didn't lose anybody there, but I might have. There's multiple steps to get one thing, right? Think of it that way. There's like multiple steps to get one end result. It's kind of difficult, it's kind of technical. How are the best ways to figure out something that's kind of difficult, kind of technical, and it's multiple moving parts? I like reverse engineering things that way, right? So if you have more questions on, how do I learn this better, or I'm trying to figure it out, and it's kind of fucking putting me to sleep, feel free to reach out. There are some great examples that you can reverse engineer, and that's actually how I learned, because I just tried to like learn the code, and I was like, fuck, like I've looked at the same thing 4 times, and I'm kind of stressing. I searched Unity events in Google, and this was the first return. So this is a video that explains what I was just telling you in, by somebody that gets paid to do it.
Damn,
So
they had them in version 4.1.
I'm sorry?
They had them in 4.1.
All the way back to 4.1.
That means I was just ignoring them. Don't ignore
But they're
them.
so efficient. So
Yeah.
instead of cranking through all that code, it's like now I just have all that code at every frame already.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of Unity, like when you have anything running on update loop and everything's running, every frame they're running that update loop, that's stuck to the main thread. So you have one thread that's going to pause while it's doing anything that C# code's doing. So any chance you have to offload to a passive event that's going to trigger only when something happens, and then offload to a GPU somehow, is going to be beneficial.
Yeah. So again, if you have more questions on that, please feel free to reach out. This developer portal link has some great information about Daydream. So you go to Daydream, and it gives you all the stuff you need for for Unity. It's a package. It just kind of walks you through it. So if you want to develop for Daydream, you can sign up right through that link.
Is that on Unity?
I'm sorry?
Is that on Unity?
Yes, Unity, Unreal, Basic, and then just raw Android if you just want to build your raw Android project. But it supports Unity and Unreal. Most of everything we've shown supports both Unity and Unreal. Those are the two big ones right now.
Yeah, Unity has a technical preview for Daydream, but I'm assuming by the time this is out, like it'll be.
Yeah, so right now he was saying the technical preview, it's basically a unique version of Unity that you have to download. Just like if you want to develop for HoloLens, you have to down a different technical preview, they call it, that has the HoloLens API built into it, but is not the final release for the thing. So,
Is there a fee for these different ones?
I'm sorry?
You run them on Unity? You know on Unity, you get paid like $1,500 for the pro.
Everything's...
And then you get Android 53. And they're changing.
So it is free. It works on free. It works on free if you have a pro license. Now, if you're paying, like if you have a perpetual, if you bought one back when you could buy them perpetually, then that works. It's all to the same license. If you have a monthly fee, if it's on the same computer, then you can have as many versions of Unity as you want on that computer. It's just you basically get 2 computers per license.
Yeah, it's a subscription model, and comes with like other services and stuff. So I work for Cloud Build here in Austin, plug. But
With like being able to splash screens and all that stuff.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It's still decent like a pro, where it lets you do, splash screens and all that stuff.
Sure, it's basically just the same thing. The only difference is whenever you go to build, you have the ability to include the API that supports the HoloLens in your case, or the Daydream in this case. It's what they do for like early technology that's not actually ready
how to
yet.
ramp up the libraries to be included in the Unity editor.
But the question, I think, is, do you imagine that there will be a special build target that will cost more
Oh, no.
for HoloLens, for example?
No, definitely not. It is a Windows platform.
Yeah, I won't speak for Unity, and you can't like take anything. I
Yeah,
say
don't
out
lawyer
of
me,
it,
bro.
Right, but I think as a goal, it's to move away from that paradigm where you'd have to dump a bunch of money into a specific platform, because there are so many platforms now with VR and everything coming up. So it's more subscription model. You buy at the level that you're at. You grow into a studio. You spend more. You get more back.
So maybe your question also had to do with you'd buy the $1,500 engine, but then you had to get another additional $1,500 to be able to build to Android Pro and stuff. All that's gone. If you pay the subscription, you get every platform across the board that they support.
Yeah, there's a pricing
You're
page.
doing that now?
That's
Yeah.
the way it is now.
That happened in like June. There's a pricing page on the Unity site you can go to, and it'll show you kind of what you get for each tier. And you can take a look at that. Yeah.
So sorry about all the Unity plugs. I mean, we do love Unity. We want more Unreal involved. We actually had a gentleman going to come tonight and do a short section on Unreal for VR development, but he's going to come to the next one.
Cool.
So have no fear.
Have no fear.
But so Leap Motion. Leap Motion has done some really great things for the dev community. They've been very helpful to me, and they're spending a lot of money internally. So just real quick, we have a developer here, Kenny Beer, and he's been doing some really cool stuff. So I kind of took a couple slides from him. So Kenny, if you'd like to stand up and say a few words about what you've been working on and how you got into it.
Sure. Hello, everybody. So this is what you're seeing right there. It's Leap Motion. So Real quick, I'm not going to talk for very long, but just to give you a heads up, I have a company called Revolver, and we're 3D printed. We actually have 3D printed a headset for augmented reality. So this is AR VR input, and this is what I think is perfect because it is literally an independent peripheral device, not just for AR, but if you want to make it for AR, you can do that. If you want private access to the mobile SDK, which is what you're seeing here, you can email them, and I gave Finn a link, and maybe he put it in the slide. If you're interested in this, we had the dilemma, cross platform input. Okay, so we're making our app for a lot of different platforms. So we said, okay, what device or peripheral do we want to do? We thought about 3D printing our own. Taylor Stoll right here actually is my 3D printing guy who printed this headset. And if you need a peripheral or anything, talk to this guy after the meeting because he is a wizard. He is actually highest rated in the greater Austin area on 3D Hubs. And that's the guy you want to talk to. So we said, okay, do we want to 3D print our own controller, like a Daydream version of Daydream? Well, we just didn't want the controller, so we decided to do the Leap Motion because we can integrate that into the headset and just mobile. You don't want that extra element of having a controller. So we just said we'll actually just use what they have because they know what they're doing. They've done it before, and we can use this on a lot of different platforms, Oculus, Vive, you name it. Now they're doing Google Cardboard or Gear VR. So if you're into mobile development, anybody here do mobile development? Okay, sweet. That's awesome, perfect. Look into Leap Motion. You can actually email them, ask for the private alpha access to their SDK, and start making it right now. Because when it comes out, you'll have your app done or whatever you're doing. And that's pretty sweet. It's actually way more accurate than you would think. I know Leap Motion started off kind of questionable, and then it got really good, especially with VR. And I said, well, okay, whatever they're doing, even if it doesn't become the, that's actually a screenshot of a Unity scene I did with the Leap Mobile. So you can make your own scenes. And I said, even if it doesn't become the primary input device, you have that framework for a peripheral-less input method. And I mean, that's pretty awesome because you can use that if you want to do minority report kind of stuff. Like that's the only way you're going to get there. You're going to have tracking. And even if Leap isn't the company, you kind of have that framework in place. Anyway, you can email them. And so let's see, Unity. What's that?
To apply for it?
Oh, you got the link. Sweet. So you guys can actually email them. It says it's closed, but that's not true. If you show them what you're working on, you can actually talk to them and maybe get a deal going with them. It says temporarily closed, but just put your name, your company, whatever you're working on. You can send, I think they have a demo link or something like that, and you can get that access. So that's pretty cool because, like I said, it applies to whatever platform you're trying to develop for.
You can buy it at Best Buy right now.
$30. Okay, so if you have doubts about Leap Motion, like a lot of people did at first, it's getting really good, and the algorithms can only get more refined, and the device is getting smaller, and it's only $30, so I can only imagine it gets cheaper, right?
I paid $100.
Exactly, yeah. No.
Early adopter.
Amazon or Alibaba, you'll get them for really cheap. So actually, if you haven't tried it, anyone here not tried the Leap Motion? Okay, if you hit me up afterwards and I'll show you on the mobile device. It's actually, I mean, it's real-time hand tracking. It's really accurate, surprisingly accurate, especially for mobile. It doesn't make as much sense for like a VR or Oculus, Vive, because you have the controllers, you have the input method. But if you have something like a Cardboard or Gear VR, you don't have really any method of input except for maybe a controller, which in my opinion is kind of limited. Obviously, you can't do as much. So I'm kind of like maybe partial to them because they were cool enough to hook me up with the Alpha Access SDK, and it's pretty nifty. I'm an Android developer primarily, but I do Unity, and we have this AR headset. So if you go to the VR meetups here in Austin, go to the next one. We'll be demoing it, and you can check it out. You can see the Leap Motion in action with an augmented reality headset that was 3D printed by Taylor Stoll and has hand tracking because we needed an input method. And for us, we said, okay, that's like, we have access to it if we email them, and it's pretty accurate enough for our purposes. If it's not, we can always transition. We'll have the framework in place programmatically, whatever. And we did a scene in Unity if you want to check it out. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say for now. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, dude.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean so I had used a Leap Motion all the way since for the past couple of years, and the tracking that they've developed now with Orion and with that right there, with that mobile device, pushing that device, it's right on. I mean, I had my hands in mobile VR just 5 minutes ago. Very cool. It measures a pinch. If you're trying to do stuff for HoloLens, which there's going to be big money with some of the biggest players in the world across all industries: oil, gas, shipping, food, finance, social, whatever. Everybody's going to want to have the Magic Leap or HoloLens technology. The key to the input for those devices is a forward-facing infrared camera that's looking at your hand, looking at hand gestures. What Leap Motion does for $30 is gives you a device that you can start prototyping those hand gestures, right? It measures pinch. You can do the same things and start preparing a proof of concept that you could land a very fat contract for next year.
Yeah, when I bought mine for $100, I got bummed about it. It sat on my desk, and then I came to the Unity meetup up at Mr. Tramp's, and someone showed me, I think it was, I forget what the new kind of, the Orion tracking model. And I was like, oh, like this thing's been sitting in my room.
It works. It really works.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Does that interface with like the phone? I mean,
With what?
how does that interface with?
It's plugged in. There's a little plug. But that's also proliferating, and Leap Motion is going into all kinds of stuff. They're building them into pre-built into keyboards. There's the new Jaguars coming out with one of them that's on the dash and right above the gear shifter, and you have basically, you can take your hand off the gear shifter and do like this, and then they have a projected light field HUD that projects on the bottom of your windshield. So you basically have holograms on the bottom of your windshield, and you can choose different things and like choose them and access that interface from a Leap Motion. And so like, boom, Jaguar would be a really cool opportunity to have, for some reason, your logo. I mean, just imagine the kind of incentives that Jaguar might give you to do that. I'll take a free Jaguar.
Well,
You know what I mean?
You know, if you come
I mean, I'd trade it for a Toyota, but then, but I'd take it is my point.
if you come from a historically games-based background and you might feel, kind of anti-corporate or what have you, like, put that aside right now and think about things that you could learn with like collaborative applications, AR, VR and stuff. It's kind of a sandbox that you can work in to do the things that you love, but it will be a while before you get there. So give it a shot.
I was trying to wave the dude that was carrying the pizza. I was like, oh, just bring it over here. Bring it in here. So again, here's some more links to their developer portal, their VR documentation, very handy. This is basically all you need to know for setting up the inputs on Oculus, CV1, or HTC Vive with the Orion software, which is the new improved tracking technology for the hand tracking. It's pretty cool. Check out his experience. It was really impressive.
Yeah, I did this,
The Kinect is an important thing to. You might not think it's very viable right now because it's 10 years old or whatever, but this is viable. This is viable technology that a lot of people are going to be wanting to understand and get developers that have experience with it. There is money here. The holoportation is freaking amazing.
You can do motion capture with this.
Yeah, motion capture, animation,
Yeah.
set it up, and your animator will love you.
Then you can just drop it right in. Like that was the first game jam that I ever done. There was a 16-year-old kid, Josiah, that came in with one of these, and he was amped about learning the motion capture software. And he just dropped animations that, me doing the Carlton dance in front of the Kinect directly into Unity, and then we could apply those to rigged models and stuff. So
And you can capture video, so you could also have the video of him doing the
me
Carlton dance.
dancing like an idiot. Yeah.
So they have a sleek documentation, and the Room Alive toolkit's also really cool, where it allows you to hook up the Kinect as well as a projector forward facing. So then their example is really cool where you have a projector and a Kinect scanning an area, and then you can project surface rendering on the projection. So like, Borderlands, that cartoony cell shaded edge destroyed look, they actually have an example where it scans the surface, creates those low poly surfaces, puts that renderer on it, and then projects it with a projector onto the surface. So like you have like, it turns the couch into like Borderland looking rendering.
So that's actually in the SDK now?
It's the Room Alive toolkit. It's an open
Okay,
source.
So it actually is out now. 'Cause I remember
Part of the Room Alive toolkit is also gives you the API to be able to hook multiple connects up, so you can have multiple connects running at the same time in the same space and share the infrared like pollution, I guess you could call it.
What's that working for? That's working for the HoloLens, right?
I'm sorry.
That's working for the HoloLens, all that stuff?
Well, this is a camera, and then there's an infrared camera right here that you can't see. Okay, actually, I think there's 2 infrared cameras you can't see.
I've used this before, I've done the animation and stuff, but, what other VR does this work with at this point? I mean, you got links on there, right? So that works for the HoloLens, like for Skyping and stuff?
Well, it's not yet. Right now, the only thing Microsoft is allowing anybody to have access to is the HoloLens headset. If you've seen some of the promo videos of the HoloLens, it's of somebody on stage wearing a HoloLens, but then there's a camera that's filming them, and then you see what that guy's seeing right here. It's because it's a network. There's another computer that's hooked up to the camera that's hooked up to the high-end camera that's focusing on them on stage and then mixing those realities together. But that's a different device, right? So you have your HoloLens, that's all cool, right? But I'm talking about a star or a important person that's on stage and then has projected holographic aids based upon their body, based upon what they're tracking with. I can pick this up and I have a holographic mug in my hand for all that you know, because you're seeing the projection here, and so I think that's a big thing. Like if you've seen the guy playing Minecraft, or if you've seen the guy wearing the HoloLens and he has his daughter pop in and holoportation, what you're looking at as a consumer is the experience he's experiencing because of this technology. That is key. Mixed reality in both forms of I'm in VR and I'm projecting myself in front of a green screen and I'm in that VR environment, or I'm trying to get my experience across from a HoloLens and I have the ability to then next year access that API. That is going to be the #1 marketing tool that VR uses to sell. It's really the only way that you can really see what you're missing.
Right.
So this is just understanding the API and the SDK for it. Costs $100. Comes with an Xbox One, and I think that there's a lot of legs in there for next year's contract positions.
I don't think you can do it with the HoloLens.
You can't. Okay, so yeah, his question is, can you do that with the HoloLens? No, you can't right now because they haven't flipped the switch. Right? But all they have to do is flip a switch. So
ultimately, it's what a 1080p RGB cam and probably 2 720p IR cameras. I think that's fundamentally what the Kinect 2 is.
So yeah, so what he's saying is that there's multiple cameras, multiple IR cameras,
That's
all
probably
forward facing. What is the quality of them? Right now you have a Kinect 2, which is its own quality and it shoots out to 10 feet okay, but that doesn't mean you can't up it to something that's twice as powerful that hooks to a Red camera, which is already a $500,000 camera. I mean, if big productions are going to be doing this and they're going to want to focus on, Trump's hair doing a crazy American flag wave, then you're going to be able to do that. You know what I'm saying?
I think we're probably pretty close to the point where we'll have, it may not be Kinect 3, it may be, Intel actually wouldn't say what the specs were for RealSense 4, but it's probably going to be either RealSense 4 or 5 will likely be 4K RGB plus, I would think, 1080p IR.
So, and that's a prediction that they're even going to do another RealSense.
Well, they already have announced RealSense 4.
Okay, that's a prediction that RealSense 5 isn't going to exist. Really. You know what I mean? Like, who knows what they're really going to do? I mean, he might know. He works for AMD, so he might know a little bit more than some. But I still don't think that like the roadmap is even paved for what forward-facing IR cameras are going to do. But if you want to know what's going to be cutting edge for 2019, for 2020, it is IR technology. I mean, that's the best way of tracking. And basically, the only wall we have right now is the ability to munge all that data into something we can use. But that shit is we're seeing it now, munging it down to be able to use on a Android device. You think that, and that's pretty amazing. That's with right now.
Right.
I mean, our next level of, or rather 5 levels from now in technology, we're gonna have these kind of things. So kind of run through, wrap it up real quick. We got 15 more minutes. So the HTC Vive is, in my opinion, the route you should go. If you're on the wall and you're trying to do this for a potential paycheck next year, it is expensive, but it's worth the money. It's a lot of fun.
Yep.
It has some really cool experiences out there, and it's powered by Steam. And there's a really great community here of people that are kind of involved with it and helping each other. So I urge you to do that.
Yeah.
Oculus, phenomenal headset. The touch is not out yet, but I predict that it's coming out within a couple weeks. We'll see. If anything, you'll be able to start buying them in a couple weeks. You can't buy them yet, right?
I was supposed to.
Okay, yeah. So I'm pretty sure you're gonna be able at least to buy them in a couple weeks. PlayStation VR, the PS Move. By the way, all of these are links to their input mapping. So if you go to any of these, it's input mapping layouts. So you remember whenever I was telling you, like, I'm sorry?
Here's your input manager.
So yeah, I was talking about an input manager, right? Your input manager should be that very, very basic, very sleek, have nothing specific to any platform. And then you're gonna have individual platforms and a checkbox of say, which platform am I building for now? I wanna build my Oculus build, I checkbox, do a drop down, however you wanna do it, and say, Oculus build, it uses this script. Gear VR build, it uses this script. Vive build, it uses this script. PSVR build, it uses this script. And then what's in that script that maps to that specific controller that's what is behind each one of these links. I'll click on one of them just to show you what it is. Like,
Just real quick though, you mentioned, for instance, the motion-based types of peripherals.
Yes, sir.
How does that fit in with this paradigm? These are all buttons and things like that that get clicked. How do you abstract motion stuff into this thing?
So motion stuff being a controller that gauges acceleration in a direction.
Whether it's the Connect 2 or any of these others.
It's like gestures versus.
Okay, so his question was how does this tie into the same paradigm? Well, okay, so if you were going to make something that's specific to Steam VR, it just works with the Vive, right? I want to make something that works with the Vive. I have a Vive. I'm gonna make it for the Vive. Okay, I want to throw something, right? And I want part of my throwing is, or maybe I'm hitting a bat with a ball. Okay, I want to gauge without real physics. I want to gauge where that ball should go, or I'm going to throw something. I want to gauge where that position should go, right? What I'm doing there is the best way to do like throwing. I had a long lunch with a Valve developer over the weekend, and we were talking about this because I'm working on knife throwing, and they take the last 10 frames once you release. So they're always cooking off. They're pooling the last 10 frames at all times. And whenever you finally release your knife, it takes those last 10 frames and creates a trajectory arc. Okay? And if it's fake and I want to like hit you with it, I throw the knife, and it might curve a little bit, but like if I threw it like at this fast, it wouldn't even hit you. But like I want it to hit you because I'm aiming at you, right? And so maybe it takes a couple because I miss you, and then I'm boom, and I get you like on 2 or 3 shots. right? Because I gauge you, and so in order to create that faux physics, you kind of have to have that angle of aim. And so I'm talking about create every frame looking at the position. So Steam VR right controller dot position creates a vector 3, but so does the offset for the Google Daydream controller. If I'm accessing those last 10 frames of movement delta, so does Connect, right, for the position of the hand, because it can track things. And then the good thing about the Connect API is it actually identifies things as hands, because they have built into the system to like recognize hominoid shapes and then be able to utilize that hand. And then like even another step is the HoloLens camera, which takes your hand and utilizes digits. You have your main digits, your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if button 1 and button 2, or finger 1 and finger 2 come together, that's a pinch. That's the same thing you can do with that. That's the same thing you could actually do with a pull of the trigger. So now I have position in my 3D space, and I have fire 1. So think of it as a mouse on a 2D screen, and clicking it is fire 1, or moving it around with my Vive controller and clicking it is fire 1, or moving around my actual hands in front of either a forward facing or it's a Connect that's looking at me, and then projecting that back into reversed, so I'm still moving my hands and it's like doing it. Now I pinch it, and again that's fire 1. It's the same thing, and you can, and I actually recommend trying to do the simple functionality as fire 1, because you can actually test with a mouse. And so
Don't back yourself into having to have the headset on when you're gonna
testing
test.
with your mouse can sometimes be very handy. So one of the things that I like to do is I leave that blank. I never use fire 1, and instead fire 1 is something that I can always use, right? And by always use, I mean is like, now I'm testing this other type of controller, and I want to be able to test with my mouse right now. So I'll hook up the mouse to do that same input right now while I'm doing it. And now I want to do this other one. Now I'll do that. Yes, sir.
I've got something for this, definitely.
Please.
It's a very long story, I'll tell it very shortly. When I was building and designing an arcade cabinet for one of those sit-down driving games, of course you've got a couple of different kinds of input cards that you have, but works the same way. You've got analog inputs that could be arbitrary, what range of resistance they go to, and you have buttons. And I wrote the black box configurator. Speaking of munging, it's a black box that just knows about as many inputs as it possibly can, and it listens to them all. And then, and this only works for some kind of settings, but you run a calibration, and the game asks you, how do I do this? And you show it.
That's cool.
And
Like a
you
proactive.
don't have to know which control you're referring to, because you're just listening to all of them, and the black box tells you, oh, well, you pressed button 6, so that means that button 6 is turbo boost. And I also set it up for things like some arcades might have 4 fire buttons instead of 2. So you just say press all the fire buttons, or press them one by one, and then press the universal button that is hardwired that says yes, because you have to have something. Fire 1's a good one for that.
That's a really awesome approach to have user-driven. System doesn't care about how you steer. It just asks whoever's in front of it how they steer, and then they do something. They move a mouse or they turn a steering wheel.
Adjust for broken arcade equipment or people with very unusual bodies.
That's pretty smart.
An iThrowing program, if it does both arms and somebody has their arm that's cut off at the elbow, they can still play because they went through the calibration. Or like this.
Yeah, like this is where I'm
they
at.
can-
That's interesting for accessibility too. Like accessibility, especially for AR VR input. There's so many different ways to input into these systems, but for so long there have been alternate ways to input into people playing. I remember Nintendo Powers, a kid playing this is like a high score with his feet. He's playing Super Mario 3 with his feet, and it was like, this is incredible. That stuff's gonna get pretty intense as this becomes kind of like tactile. I was just going to say, as an exercise in cross-platform input because I was recently just provided Gear VR and I ignored it for so long. And so I'd seen some experiences, and I was, it was fun, but it was also a very short experience. So with the S7, it feels more solid. It's more of a mid-tier kind of VR platform for me. But what I took was a game I had built on the desktop, no VR, walk around and click on things and activate stuff. Put something like that into the Gear VR. You'll have to optimize a lot if you're going to mobile. Then also take something from a highly demanding VR environment like the Vive and keep it in the same project and be able to run it on the Gear VR. And it's gonna suck for like 4 hours, and you're gonna hate yourself, and you're gonna switch platform. That's why you should use Cloud Build, because you have switch platform, which I had to start dog fooding. But it's like you learn through those experiences, and also that's kind of like take something you're comfortable with, go into some weird zone, and then kind of mesh what you know with what you don't know. And then that's a good start to kind of an abstract input manager. Just like slowly expand your comfort zone, or you're gonna have to very fast. You might have to, but just always be able to kind of build on what you know and do it right. Don't just settle for something that you put up with and then get stuck with it.
Is anybody unfamiliar with Cloud Build? Anybody not know really much? So Cloud Build is what Unity Austin group is working on. Basically, it allows you to share your repository with your Unity project, and then whenever you make a change, it creates a new build for all the different platforms. And you don't have to do like, okay, now let me build and let me send that out to like my 5 different testers. You just do a change, you make a change, and then the testers get an email saying a change has been made and the new build is ready. Go ahead and test that.
And you can
Yes,
go
sir.
ahead.
What do you think the state of third-party input, abstractions of this kind? Are there any things that go across the boundaries this way that are useful, and do you see potential for Unity integrating that kind of thing in versions?
So I think they already are. The Steam VR API. So if you run Steam, you can install Steam VR from your Steam. You can go to Tools, install Steam VR. That's what allows your Vive to work. If you plug in an Oculus, you can run Oculus Home and play Oculus games. But you can also start Steam and start Steam VR, and all of the games that work for Vive work for Oculus with the touch already. 1-to-1, they already work. Everything that works for the Vive also works for the touch already. Some of the games have specific Vive controllers, which is really funny that you're holding like a touch and there's a Vive controller floating there. But that is already working, and I think his question was, is Unity going to support that? I don't know, but I'd like to think that they are because of who they are. Really quick, run through these last couple of slides. This is a wall of input plugins for Unity that are extremely helpful and can get you a big jump forward. The Vive input utility has some really great stuff. That's what we covered last time, which is it's a mainframe for that. I have my input manager, but then what goes behind that's specific to the Vive for all my different grips and touches and pulls and throws and measurements of angles and speeds and everything, that's what it gives you. The Steam VR Toolkit gives you 35 example scenes of like cool little here's a lever pull, here's a bow throwing, here's a teleporter with an arc, here's all kinds of cool stuff.
Shit you don't want to build.
Yeah, it gets you there. It gets you there. VR Infinite Gesture, amazing tool. We just hired that dude,
That just sounds cool.
yeah, and basically you can author gestures. So I want to do a star, and every time I do a star, whoosh, big star comes out. Or I want to do a peace sign, and every time I do a peace sign, it heals me. Or I want to draw a star, and then it spawns a skeleton warrior that comes and runs at you to fight you. All those kind of things, you can author those, and then you can save them out with the game. Or you can do it real time, multiplayer, and author them inside the game and do something where we're doing this kind of Simon Says thing. You can do all kinds of stuff with that. Curved UI, an amazing set of very Netflixy type interface. So if you're trying to make something that looks very professional, this will get you there really fast. $25.
Yeah. Also look at the asset store.
If you're more of a playmaker type, I included a playmaker toolkit for Steam VR. It's got a lot of the same kind of functionality, but set up for playmaker. I personally don't like playmaker because I'm a programmer, and if you're not a programmer, you might really prefer playmaker because it's very handy and you don't have to fucking code, which is nice. The VR remote input, this is really cool because it allows you to use controllers or keyboard or a mobile device as your peripheral. So if you want to experiment with that and try to plan out some stuff that like maybe you don't have the Nexus 6P, but you want to use your Galaxy 5, you can do the same shit.
If you're thinking of trying to build something crazy and you're like, wait a second, this feels like it's kind of crazy, go look at the asset store. Like, I spent so much time trying to do audio activity and found an asset that did it 10 times better than I did, and then started giving me ideas about how I could do it 10 times better, based on what I need. So, like, please don't build things you don't need to build.
Vive Grip is another cool open source project that I linked here because it has a lot of cool interactions and it uses physics in a unique way for throwing, and it's open source. So getting that if you wanna, jump into it a little further. And then here's some more Unity plugins for cross-platform. These are actually based upon the more traditional controllers, but their input framework is exactly what I described. So if you want to see that done in a really great way that's efficient across a lot of different controllers, look at what they're doing here, especially in control, and then just extend it. Create a new one for Steam, create a new one for this, and you don't have to like really create that whole input manager, and it's already vague for you. I wanted to talk a little bit about best practices. I'll cover the 2 points that I think are the most important. This was on the Google Daydream. This is an example of their Daydream project, or this is a Vive project. But multiplayer, what I wanted to show you is look at the eyes. So the eyes are, for multiplayer, that's a big thing that I've been focusing on is how do you create this presence? Whenever you create the eyes, one of the things they're doing is I look this way and it rotates the eyes this way. I look this way, rotates the eyes this way, and then it randomly blinks. That creates so much humanistic properties of that person there connected with you without it being that uncanny valley. It's really solid. So that's a good one. Job Simulator. What I really like about some of the stuff that they've discovered, the programmers over there discovered multiple different things for trying to prototype. What I'm showing here is they have hands, controllers, right? Your controller is your hand that you're moving around until you grab something and the controller disappears, and then you're just tracking that object. So you can utilize that object. You don't need both of those, because if you had your real hand and now I grab my phone and I'm like, this is my phone, and I'm like using my phone like this, that's fucking fake as shit. But if I just like grab it and it's like floating there now, it feels like that is my hand. As well as like when they throw stuff. Another thing that it's showing off here is if you move your hand through an object, you don't feel it, right? If I move my hand through the desk, I don't feel it. But if I'm holding my phone and I try to put my phone through the desk, I don't want my phone to go through the desk. So it stops. And my hand can go through, and then I pick it back up, right? So whenever I'm trying to pick an object and slide it across the surface, that's what they're doing. They move their hand down, they're like, oh, let me pull it out, right? And so that's just a really good example of like some really good fast forward points of if you can think about this kind of stuff and look what other people have already discovered, it'll get you a lot closer to the finish line. So again, thank you so much for your time. Do we have any questions? All right, well, thanks again. We gotta bolt, but I appreciate your attentive attitude, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. If you're looking for work or if you're hiring, please mingle. In fact, you know what? Is anyone hiring right now? Please, Murray, who are you hiring?
Oh, okay. So I'm like the guy that you said. So I'm looking for some VR, AR developer types. We have some projects that we're working on. currently, I really need some help with them. And then I've got some future projects that I need help with. I have money, I will pay you.
Boom. That is the guy you want to know.
I don't have that, but I do have money. I'm not asking for a favor, but I can do this in a variety of ways. I won't take a bunch of time, but if you know anything
Yeah,
about
we just did.
Euphoria,
So, okay, cool. Thank
if
you.
you're familiar with Unity, if you publish some stuff, I can show you some of the stuff that we've worked on. I've got a bunch of AR stuff here, give you an idea of what we're doing, but I need some help, and I need it really fast. So, there you go.
Anybody else? Anybody else hiring?
Bucket's cool.
So I'm hiring. I'm hiring multiple programmers as well as a talented artist that has a tech background. Hiring if you're looking for work, or if you're if you're eager to do this kind of stuff. Is anybody looking for work? Looking to be hired? Please. What do you do? Who are you?
I'm not sure.
Apparently
My
goes
favorite
quickly.
thing to do is anything with Unity 3D. My specialties are messing with the input systems, build automation, extending the editor so that it has new features that make it easy for the other developers to do whatever thing I told them to do before. That's my favorite thing. Of course, all programmers like to make too. That's our favorite thing to do.
Doing God's work.
Yes.
Anybody else? Please.
Yeah, I mean, I worked with Unity for like 15 years. I got a HoloLens, doing that stuff, so.
Better.
And I've worked with VR, AR, Euphoria.
Nice. Anybody else? Look, please.
I'm Rob Wing. I'm an interaction designer and artist, and I do a lot of mobile and web designs.
Cool. All right. Anyone else? Please.
My name is Troy. I'm a UD developer. Got a certificate. So
Nice.
I do all sorts of things: mobile development. I make mobile games. Really good at optimizing things and best practices kind of guy. And just anything you throw at me, I'm willing to learn and dive into some things. I've got mixed reality experience with HoloLens and don't really have much for VR, so want to learn some of that stuff.
Right on.
At
That's-
first.
Anybody else looking? Well, that's yes, please.
I guess I'm kind of interested in an animator, so if you're an animator, contact me.
Right on. Well, this sounds like exactly like some of the people I want to know. So, if you could please, if you're looking or if you are, if you're hiring, please follow up on the page. Go ahead and like say, again what you just said on the page. This is the best way to link up. And I mean, he's a certified Unity developer, so he obviously knows Unity pretty well. And thank you so much for your time. And
Buffalo Billiards, maybe?
yeah, so usually we walk over to Buffalo Billiards for some drinks and afterwards. So if y'all want to grab a beer and chat about some stuff and check out some demos and stuff like that, let's mill on over to Buffalo Billiards and clear out so they can clean up this area. So thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Hope it was useful. Hope it was useful information.
Jeff, also by Buffalo Billiards.
Cool, man.
Awesome, brother.
Thanks,
Good
dude.
stuff. Thanks for having me, man.
Hope it was helpful.
Good show. I liked it.
Thanks, man.
Good show, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
Really good show, I like it. Absolutely.
Hey, Taylor Finn, you guys have
No, you have that 3D printed.
Dude, he just 3D printed this wood.
Isn't that cool?
It's very nice. What is this?
This holds the Vive controller and you mounts it a camera.
Mixed reality.
Oh,
I love
mixed
it.
reality.
Oh, I love it.
Oh,
So I need these.
That's
There's more of these.
That's simple.
I don't know what you're gonna put it in, but it doesn't need support. Maybe a little bit into here.
If you made that and sold it for $10 a piece, I bet we could sell 50 of them
I'll fire it up
this
real
month.
quick. Got to do